Welcome back to the Before AGI podcast. You know, AI and creativity is something that's been generating a lot of buzz lately, and we wanted to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about it these days.
Exactly.
It can be hard to cut through the noise.
For sure, and that's actually exactly why you sent us this whole stack of articles and videos.
Right.
You're curious about whether AI is going to be a creative partner or a potential threat.
Especially in fields like art and music and design.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some pretty strong opinions out there.
Yeah, so we're going to try to make sense of it all. Explore some real-world examples.
And maybe even uncover a few aha moments along the way.
I'd love those.
Who doesn't love a good aha moment?
Right. Okay, so one thing that immediately jumped out at me from these sources was this idea that innovation in certain areas is actually slowing down. The World Economic Forum article pointed to microchip development as a prime example.
Huh, that's interesting. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You would think with all the resources and research being poured into these fields, that progress would be accelerating,
Right.
not hitting a wall.
Exactly, and that's where AI comes in. The article suggests that AI could be the key to breaking through these barriers and jumpstarting innovation again.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
We're already seeing it happen in other areas,
Like where?
like drug discovery and material science.
Fascinating. And you know what's really interesting is how this all ties into the concept of AI as a creativity catalyst. We've got these sources here talking about designers at Neurons Inc. using AI to boost their productivity by a whopping 20%.
Wow.
And improve accuracy at the same time.
That's huge.
This was from the Chief Line Officer article, by the way.
20%, that's impressive. And it makes you think it seems like AI is being used less about replacing humans and more about amplifying their creative potential.
Right.
This idea of augmented intelligence keeps popping up.
Totally, yeah. Think of it this way. Imagine a chef using a high-tech kitchen appliance. That doesn't replace the chef's skill and creativity, but it lets them work more efficiently.
Yeah.
Explore new possibilities.
Totally.
Maybe try a new recipe that they wouldn't have been able to do before.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of that example from the Center for Natural and Artificial Intelligence article about artists using AI tools like Midjourney.
Yeah.
They're not letting the AI create the entire artwork.
Right.
They're using it to generate those initial ideas and variations that they can then refine and build upon.
It's like having a brainstorming partner
Yes,
that can come up with thousands of possibilities in an instant.
exactly.
And then the artist can kind of curate those and pick the best ones and then inject their own unique style into the final piece.
It makes me wonder, is AI pushing us to redefine what we even consider creative?
It's a really interesting question. If AI can generate so many options,
Yeah.
does that diminish the value of human originality?
Right.
Or does it free us up to explore new creative avenues that we wouldn't have even thought of before?
I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, especially when you look at how AI is impacting creative workflows.
Yeah, how so?
Well, the Royal Television Society source talked about AI automating tasks like video captioning and metadata creation.
Yeah, free up that mental space, right?
Think about what that means for someone like a video editor.
Yeah.
They're suddenly freed from those tedious, time-consuming tasks and can dedicate more energy to the actual creative process.
It's like AI is handling all of the grunt work so the human can focus on the art.
And speaking of art, that same source mentioned how Channel 4 is exploring AI to potentially unlock entirely new creative formats.
It's not just about efficiency, it's about expanding the boundaries of what's possible creatively.
It's very exciting. But of course, with any new technology, there are going to be some anxieties.
Right.
One that comes up a lot is this idea of AI-generated content blurring the lines between what's real and what's artificial.
Yeah, that deep Tom Cruise example from TikTok is a perfect illustration of that.
Yes.
Like a hyper-realistic AI version of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and it's so convincing
Right.
that it sparked this whole debate about authenticity and the nature of reality itself.
It's both fascinating and a little unsettling, right?
Yes.
I mean, if we can't tell the difference between a real person and an AI creation,
Yeah.
what does that mean for our sense of truth and trust?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
It leads us to another big theme that emerged from the sources.
Which is?
This complex issue of ownership and copyright when it comes to AI-generated art.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. The Royal Television Society source did a good job of outlining the different perspectives.
Yeah, they did.
You have some people arguing that AI is just a tool,
Right.
so whoever using the tool should own the output.
Oh, yeah.
But then you have artists who feel like their work is being used without their consent to train these AI models.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation.
Yeah.
And then there's that fascinating case mentioned in the Center for Natural and Artificial Intelligence source, where an artist tried to patent an AI as the inventor of a piece of art.
And how did that go?
Which, of course, was denied. The legal system is still trying to catch up with the rapid advancements in AI technology.
For sure.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But let's not lose sight of the fact that AI is already having a real impact on the creative landscape.
Right.
And there are some pretty big questions we need to grapple with. Like, for example, what happens to jobs in creative fields if AI can automate so many tasks?
It's a valid concern. The Explaining the Future source didn't shy away from that.
Right.
Especially when it comes to those repetitive tasks.
Right. But the Royal Television Society source offered a counterpoint.
Oh, interesting. What's that?
They argued that AI will also create new job opportunities, like prompt engineers,
Oh, okay.
and lead to a demand for new skill sets.
So it's not necessarily about jobs disappearing altogether,
Right.
but rather a shift in the types of skills that will be in demand.
Exactly. It's like any technological revolution.
Right.
There will be disruption,
You're sure.
but also new opportunities.
Makes sense. And in light of all that change and potential disruption, the need for transparency and communication from companies becomes so important.
Absolutely. The Royal Television Society source brought up Grace Boswood,
Right.
who emphasized the need for companies to be upfront with their employees about how AI will impact their roles.
It's about acknowledging those anxieties and then working together to navigate this new landscape.
Totally.
Yeah.
But, as we're talking about all this, I can't help but think about the bigger picture.
You mean the ethical implications of AI development?
Yes, exactly. And it's something we definitely need to explore further. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, this has been a great overview.
Let's take a break here and come back to tackle those ethical considerations in part 2.
Sounds good. I'm really curious to see where this conversation takes us next.
Me too.
All right.
Let's take a break. Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into AI and creativity. We've been exploring some pretty heady concepts, but now I'm thinking we should zoom in on some specific creative industries.
Oh, I like that idea. Let's get more granular.
Yeah, and see how AI is already, making waves.
Okay, yeah, I think we have some sources that touch on that.
Yeah, for sure.
This Business and Financial Times article about the creative economy in Ghana really stood out to me.
Interesting. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of Ghana as being at the forefront of AI and advertising.
Right. Well, they highlight this agency called Innova DDB Ghana
Okay.
that's using AI for a whole range of tasks,
Like what?
from initial research to developing concepts to even writing copy.
Wow, so they're really integrating AI into their entire workflow.
Yeah, but the article also points out some limitations that they've encountered.
Oh, well, like what?
Well, they make this really important point that AI, at least in its current state, can struggle to grasp cultural nuances and local beliefs,
Okay.
which can be super crucial for crafting effective advertising campaigns.
Right. Yeah.
There are certain things that require a deep understanding of human emotions and cultural contexts
Yeah.
that AI just hasn't quite mastered yet.
And you know what? The article gives this great example.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about an MTN Ghana Independence Day campaign that really resonated with people
Okay.
because it tapped into this shared understanding of Ghanaian culture.
Yeah, that's something AI would probably have a hard time replicating.
It seems like there's still a strong need for that human touch,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to storytelling and connecting with audiences on that emotional level.
Absolutely. AI can be a powerful tool for generating ideas and streamlining processes.
Yeah.
But that human element of empathy and understanding is still irreplaceable.
And it's a good reminder that AI isn't about to make human creativity obsolete.
Right.
It's more about finding ways for both to work together effectively.
I like that. And that brings us to another area where AI is having a big impact.
Yep.
3D design. One of our sources mentioned this Irish startup called Artimatics.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
That's using AI to automate a lot of the 3D content creation process.
Didn't they say their technology is incredibly efficient?
It's supposed to be super efficient.
Something like an 80% reduction in production time.
Yeah, something like that. It's a pretty dramatic improvement. And it has huge implications for industries where 3D modeling is such a time-consuming process,
Oh, totally.
like video game design
For sure.
and architecture.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing how quickly these tools are evolving. It makes you wonder what the creative landscape is going to look like in 5 or 10 years. It's
Yeah.
both exciting and a little daunting.
I think exciting and daunting is the perfect way to describe it. But as we embrace all of these advancements,
Yeah,
we also need to be mindful of the challenges they present.
of course.
And one that keeps coming up is that question of copyright and ownership when it comes to AI-generated art.
Right. We talked about the artist who tried to patent an AI as the inventor, but that was a no-go.
Right. Unsuccessful.
So where does that leave us?
Mm-hmm.
Who actually owns the copyright for a piece of art created by an AI?
It's a bit of a legal gray area right now.
Yeah.
The current thinking seems to be leaning toward the human user of the AI tool being considered the author.
But it's not quite that simple, right? Because these AI models are trained on massive data sets of existing art.
Yeah.
So where does inspiration end and plagiarism begin?
That's a great question, and one that the Center for Natural and Artificial Intelligence source spends some time thinking about.
Okay, what do they say?
They suggest that the training data itself could be seen as analogous to the experiences that shape a human artist's style.
So if a human artist is influenced by the works they've seen throughout their life,
Yeah.
is it really so different from an AI model being trained on a vast collection of images?
It's an interesting comparison, right? The more we explore this, the more those lines between human and AI creativity start to blur.
And that takes us right back to that fundamental question. What does it even mean to be creative in this new era of AI? Is it about generating something totally new, or is it more about curating and selecting and refining from this vast pool of possibilities that AI can help us access?
Maybe it's a bit of both. Perhaps the real test of human creativity is going to lie in our ability to collaborate with these AI tools, to harness their power while still infusing our own unique perspectives and emotions into the final product.
Yeah, I like that perspective. It's not about humans versus AI,
Right.
but humans and AI working together to push the boundaries of what's possible creatively.
Exactly. And we're already seeing that kind of collaborative approach playing out in various fields. The Geeks for Geeks source talks about how AI is being used in music composition,
Okay.
not to replace composers,
Yeah.
but to give them new tools and insights.
So instead of fearing AI as a competitor, musicians are starting to see it as a potential collaborator.
Yeah. AI can analyze musical trends, suggest chord progressions, even generate melodies. It's like having this virtual bandmate
That's cool.
that can spark inspiration and push you in new creative directions.
And in film and animation, the Geeks for Geeks source also highlights how AI is being used to streamline those processes and open up these new storytelling possibilities.
They specifically mention AI being used for things like script analysis, generating visual effects,
Cool.
and even motion capture and animation. It's really remarkable.
All of these advancements could really free up filmmakers and animators
Yeah,
to focus more on the artistic side of their work,
totally.
like the storytelling
The heart of it all.
and the emotional impact.
Exactly. And it's exciting to think about what new forms of creative expression might emerge from this kind of collaboration between humans and AI.
Mhm.
But I think it's time for another pause.
Wait.
We've covered a lot of ground, and there's still so much more to discuss. We can wrap everything up and explore what this all means for the future of creativity in the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into AI and creativity. We've covered a lot of ground, from those philosophical questions about art made by AI to how AI is impacting real-world jobs and workflows.
And now it's time to answer that big question we started with. Is AI a friend or foe to human creativity? Or maybe somewhere in between?
Right? It's a debate that's going on everywhere. And as we saw from these sources you sent us, there's no easy answer.
Definitely not.
Some people are really optimistic about the possibilities, while others are a lot more cautious.
It reminds me of this one source we looked at, the China AI presentation. They made this really interesting analogy comparing AI's role in the creative process to that of a tiger mom.
A tiger mom, that's a new one.
It is, right? What they're basically saying is AI can be like this really demanding parent who's always pushing you to be better and do better. It can be inspiring, but also a lot of pressure.
I can see that. On the one hand, AI can push us to try new things and get out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if everyone is relying on the same AI tools and algorithms, could that lead to everyone's work looking the same?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's about finding that balance
Yeah.
where AI is pushing us forward without getting in the way of our own creative ideas.
It's like anything else.
Hmm.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It all depends on how we choose to use it.
The Business and Financial Times article talked about a study by Engine Creatives that found over 70% of creatives think AI will actually help them in their jobs.
And that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that still means there's a decent amount of people who see AI as a threat.
Yeah, about 28%.
It makes sense that people are a little hesitant.
Sure.
Change is scary, especially when it comes to something as personal and important as creativity.
And we can't forget about those real concerns about the potential downsides of AI, especially if it's not developed and used responsibly.
Right. We can't just jump in without thinking about the ethics.
Yeah.
And that was something that came up a lot of the sources you shared.
The Royal Television Society discussion talked about the dangers of deep fakes and the need for ethical guidelines when developing AI.
It's so important that we have these conversations and really think about how to make sure AI is used for good and doesn't end up hurting people.
Definitely. And we can't forget about bias.
Right?
AI systems are only as good as the data they learn from.
Yeah.
And if that data is biased, the output will be biased too.
The SIR broadcast source talked a lot about that.
They really emphasize that we need to be aware of these biases and try to make AI systems that are fair and represent everyone.
So after all this, what's the answer? Is AI a friend or foe to human creativity?
Well, I think a new approach paper had a really good way of putting it. They said it's all about finding a balance between embracing new technology and holding on to what makes human artistry special.
That's a great way to sum it up. AI could unlock some really amazing creative possibilities,
Definitely.
but we need to make sure it's helping people express themselves, not replacing them.
It all comes down to us. As AI continues to develop, we have to shape how it's made and used to make sure it benefits humanity. It's a challenge, but it's also really exciting.
Totally. It's a whole new world out there, and we're all learning as we go. So to our listeners, tell us what you think. What are you excited about in this AI-powered future, and what makes you nervous? Be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics like this one. And if you're ready to get hands-on with AI and explore some of the tools we've talked about, check out my YouTube channel, Ian Ochieng, Ochieng AI, for tutorials and insights. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI and creativity. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying